A movie about Donald Trump was in the cinemas there last week. It's called The Apprentice, and it's about Donald Trump in his early years around the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s, when he was upper management for his father's firm, building firm, and from there he gets in contact with this lawyer, and the lawyer um, introduces him to the ways of how to get successful. And in so being, he learns three important rules. The first rule is to attack, attack, attack. And the second rule is to always um, make the truth your own. And the third one was, um, never admit defeat. And Donald Trump's mentor, he showed how to go about attacking somebody's principles and talking fast enough and obliquely enough that it confuses the person that he's attacking. Um, he also puts in half truths and exaggerates the truth in such a way that it's sort of true, but it's not fully true. And again, it causes confusion. And finally, he never accept defeat. Donald Trump, he might have a pen with a red cap on it and it's got red ink, but he'll definitely convince you that it's in fact a shade of blue. Throughout the movie, we see how Donald Trump evolves into this kind of character who's you can't confront him, you can't reason with him. He just gets his way, he pushes his way through. And looking at how he ran his term the last time, he did it through a process of elimination. I suppose because he started off in upper management and went up into becoming the big boss. His style of management was basically hire the best guy for the job, and if that guy is disagreeing with you, fire him and move on to the next guy. And the 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 advantage of that is there's no limit of very good guys out there, but the disadvantage is obviously he's dumbing down the system to suit himself. Um, so there's you get a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump. He says things that really um, click with us, and then he says something that just makes us really want to hate him. So what's the basis behind that? Um, well, firstly, he's what can I say? He's how do we love what when he says things that endear himself to us? He comes across as charming, disarming, and sure, we'll give him a chance. Sure, he might actually do a good job of it. However, when he comes out with statements, you don't know what he's going to say next. Will he negotiate a peace deal with Putin? Um, in the short term, if that does actually come into effect, um, yeah, it might actually work. But in the long term, he's actually empowering the other regimes to give them enough breathing space to live out another 10, 15 years. He's basically kicking the can down the road. And what is it about him that really stirs up our emotions about him? And I suppose when I think about the story or the story that I got from a colleague, he was on duty in Liberia, and he came across an African village, and in the African village, the young people were uneducated and free and no clothes or nothing, mad and wild. The women were all huddled in a hut, terrified of these big army guys coming into their village. And as for the men, they were in the bush just waiting for the army to just move on with their patrol so they could get back to doing what they were doing. And from what I understand, is that would not be far unlike what was happening in Ireland 10,000, 15,000 years ago, the tribal culture. Back in those days, yeah, you could be self-sufficient, but you wouldn't survive very long on your own. Um, if you had if you had a family in the conventional sense, which would be very unconventional back in those days, if you had a woman and children, um, you're liable to lose them. They'd get kidnapped from you, and you could end up being killed. So you would naturally try to group up with a small tribe, and in that tribe, again, it would be very, it would not be safe. It wouldn't be. It would be a matter of time before the neighboring larger tribe takes the women and children, and if you're lucky to if you're lucky to be made a slave for them, or you just wither up and die. So if you were a male and you found yourself in a large tribe back in those days, it would be a very uncomfortable lifestyle, and 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 fearful lifestyle that you'd be living in, on account of the fact that, firstly, the women, the job of the women is basically to look after the children. The job of the men is to protect the tribe. And of all those men in the tribe, the biggest, dirtiest brute, he'd be a psychopath, a sociopath, he's your chief. And the job of the chief is to eliminate people in the tribe. And why would he do that? Well, depending on how ruthless he is, it's more likely that he is the protege of an elder, and the elder would have himself have been a chief before, but he's no longer strong enough to do the muscle work. But he does have the wisdom and the experience, and he has the ruthless intelligence to be able to look at his tribe and say, and pick out who's the weakest link in the tribe. And of course, um, when times are good, everybody can reasonably relax. However, in the darkness of the winter, when resources are low, or there's a disease, or there's a lack of resources, the elder would turn to the chief and he will say, "Time to thin out the herd." Um, so by doing that, um, it's very you, as a male, and you're not the chief, you're in a very uncomfortable position, a very fearful position. More likely you'd run from that situation. um, Otherwise, if you stayed, you'd probably end up being banished from the tribe, and I'm sure that would mean being starved out of the tribe, or being disinformed or led away. Finally, um, it could end up being murder just to get you out of the tribe. Um, Furthermore, if the tribe that you're in happens to be in a feud with another tribe, and there's going to be a battle, say, um, half of our tribe could be thinking, "Let's not fight at all. Let's just get out of here." Um, this would be a perfect time for the chief to come in and do a sacrifice, a public murder of one of the males in the tribe, just enough to get everybody convinced or concentrated on the one task at hand, which is to stand and fight. And that's not unlike what's going on in Russia at the moment, in the Ukraine war. There appears to be this kind of trapped mentality on the side of the Russian soldiers, that they've no choice. It's either that or get murdered by their own. Um, so I believe that that would have to be some very deep, deep, deep down generational trauma uh, that Donald Trump is stirring up in us. There's the fear of being eliminated from his worldview. Um, but what is his worldview? And in the movie, Trump, or the Trump's mentor, says, "We're doing this for America," and that's Trump's goal as well. That he's doing it to make America great again. But America is an ideal, and doesn't matter what you do for your country or what you do for your community, at the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself. And to say that you're doing it for national interest ideas or for community or for business, you're not. You're really doing it to help yourself at the end. That's all I have to say. Take care. And just one final point on that, in terms of running away from your tribe, um, it was definitely not an act of cowardice because you were running out for fear of your life. And furthermore, those people running for fear of their lives, those were the same people that escaped Africa, who escaped Central Asia, and went on to populate the Western Hemisphere, Europe and America. Um, so, yeah, it probably was smart to run away in the first place and set up our own tribes further northwest. That's all I have to say. Take care.